Welcome to North of the Broad. I'm your host, Robin Zimmerman. We bring you our show each week from the Pat Conroy Literary Center in downtown Beaufort. We've got a great show lined up for you, so stay tuned. And welcome back to North of the Broad. Brad Taylor is with us. Now, he is military, veteran, Special Forces, U.S. Army, 21 years, Delta Force, become novelist in 2011, wrote his first novel. His latest book just came out last week, American Traitor. Brad, I'm so honored to talk with you. Welcome to North of the Broad.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I wish I could be there in person.
I know. You're in Charleston.
Yeah.
And is the newest book your 14th or 15th?
15th book.
15th
Believe
book.
it or not. Nobody's more surprised than me.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that. So again, his extensive military background, and now you have this Pike Logan, this character through all of your books. What intrigued you about writing?
Believe it or not, it was just kind of a bucket list item of mine. I always said I was going to write a novel, just because I was always been a voracious reader.
Right.
And I was at a special mission unit at Fort Bragg, deployed endlessly, and then came down to Charleston to teach at the Citadel. And I had a lot of time on my hands. I mean, from where I came from to what I was doing, I had a ton of time. And so I told my wife, hey, I'm going to write a book. And she said, okay, go, have at it. And I thought I'd sit on the bedside table. I wasn't writing a book to get published. I was writing a book because I wanted to write a book.
Right.
I figured my mom would say, that's a really good book, and that'd be the end of it. Right. And it sold. And I came out on a promotion list of colonel. My daughter was entering high school. I was told my next assignment was 2 years unaccompanied to Southwest Asia, and I had to make a decision. And I decided to give writing a try, and I turned down the promotion and retired.
And so your books focus on a whole host of military activities and things, what goes on behind the scenes. And particularly in this latest book, American Traitor, would you talk a little bit about the infiltration of or China and Gray War? And for our viewers, really, in layman's terms, Brad, what does that mean, and why is it so intriguing?
Yeah, well, China has for years been doing what they call hybrid warfare, gray warfare. In fact, in 1998, I was at Naval Postgraduate School getting a master's, and they wrote a paper called Unrestricted Warfare. Two PLA officers, People's Liberation Army officers, wrote this paper and said, here's how we take on America without firing a shot. And 3 books ago, I was in Lesotho, Africa, doing on-the-ground research for Operator Down. And that was about a coup. So I had to go see the Parliament buildings, and I had to go see the police station, that kind of stuff. And the Parliament buildings, the government center was all being built brand new. It was absolutely pristine construction. And there's a lot of Chinese lettering on the walls. And I asked the guy I was with, what's up with Chinese lettering? Well, you don't expect to see that in Lesotho, Africa. I mean, the lettering said something like, be sure you have a hard hat on behind this post or whatever. And he said, oh, China's building this for us. And I said, what for? Well, they just want to be nice. And I'm like, no, they don't want to be nice. They're getting something out of this. And that was my first real world contact into the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. And then 3 books later, they just have been building up and building up and building up.
Wow.
They're in the news all the time. And I said, I'm going to write a book about this. This is insidious.
So, Brad, if we have never read one of your books, and I was talking to my husband about how interested I was in you and this Pike Logan character, should you start back at the beginning with the first one, or could you just dive into any one of them?
You could dive into any of them. And that's actually kind of the hardest thing about writing a series is I have to give enough information so that the new reader understands what's going on without boring the heck out of the old reader. Right. No, you can certainly dive in. They all stand alone. And that's probably one of my biggest flaws is because I don't think past the book I'm writing. And since it is a universe that Pike Logan exists in, when that book's done, I have to live with what I wrote. And so they definitely all stand alone. You
are such a prolific writer. You're writing like 1-2 books a year. And are you going to continue on and on and on?
Yeah, I was doing 2 books a year. As I was kind of a mistake. Publisher. I had to put food on the table. So when I retired from the military, I was doing a lot of military contracting. And I would look at the due date. So your book's due in December, but you've got a contract from July to January. I'd get the book in July, and then I'd scream at them, "Why aren't you putting this book out?" And like I said, I don't know anything about publishing. And they said, "Well, Brad, you're not our only author. You're on a schedule. Glad you turned it in 6 months early, but it's coming out in December." And that happened about 3 times. And they said, "Well, if you want to do 2 books a year, let's do that." Smarty pants.
Fantastic.
And I said, "Okay, we'll do that." And then I did that for about 4 years, and it was crushing because you're not really doing 2 books a year. You're promoting 1 book on the tour, you're editing a 2nd book, and you're starting a 3rd book. And I still do the book research trips overseas. I still have my security contracts.
Right.
And it was crushing. So I said, no mas, and now I'm back to 1 year.
Thank you, Brad. I enjoyed talking with you. I wish we had more time. But again, American Traitor just came out last week on January the 5th. Please pick it up. You can get it in numerous locations. So, Brad, it's so great to have you with us. And what a career you have had, my dear.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And we'll be right back with North of the Broad.